right, so today we're going to take a look at feeding relationships. All right, so feeding relationships, what they do is they show the flow of energy. And in an ecosystem, this energy flow is one way. Energy is not recycled, matter is, and that is super important for you to know. Now, this flow of energy can be represented two ways. The first way is a food chain. And the food chain is a straight line series of energy transfer. You can think of it as a this eats that type of thing. So for example, here is a food chain. Okay, so the plant gets eaten by the aphid, that gets eaten by the ladybug, which gets eaten by the bird, which gets eaten by the weasel. Now I want you to pay close attention to the arrows here. Okay, now these actually are important in terms of the direction they are pointing. This is showing that the plant has the energy and it is giving the energy to the aphid. If you drew it with the arrowhead in the other direction, that would say that the aphid was giving its energy to the plant, like basically being eaten by it. And it's not. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so this is kind of a simple food chain. Now this is great for showing basic feeding relationships, but it's not representative of very much. We only get to see a piece of the picture. So the next way that we look is as a food web. And this is a network. It's called a web, and if you think of a spider web, that's exactly what you should be thinking of. There are choices that are involved. It allows complex relationships to be represented. In other words, it can actually represent a whole ecosystem. And I'm going to show you a kind of a simple one on the next page. I did give you printed notes for this so that you could draw this a little bit easier. Okay? So what you have to understand, though, is that each step in a food chain or a food web is called a trophic level. And the trophic level that it's on represents how many steps away from the sun it is. Okay. Now what you have to understand is every level of a trophic or of a food web depends on the one below it for energy. So if you flip over to your printed notes, you can we'll draw this sample food web here. So we're going to start at the bottom here with a shrub and grass. Now these are producers, so they are the beginning part of our food web, and they are on the first trophic level. The shrub gets eaten by a deer, but the grass can also get eaten by the deer. So the deer has some food choices. Now the grass can also get eaten by a rabbit. Now both the deer and the rabbit are on the second trophic level because remember, these guys are the first. They're one step away from the sun. These guys are on the second. The deer can then get eaten by a mountain lion, and the rabbit can get eaten by either a fox or a hawk. So these guys are on the third trophic level. We can also classify these based on what they are. The shrub and the grass are my producers, my rabbit and deer are my herbivores, and my mountain lion, my fox, and my hawk are all three carnivores. In this particular one, I don't have any omnivores. Now this one is very simple, but if you look here, you can see it gets pretty complex pretty quickly. And sometimes organisms can actually occupy more than one level. So let me give you an example here. Let's take a look at this harvest mouse, which is an omnivore. Okay, so we have the pickleweed here. The grasshopper eats the pickleweed, so that makes it the second trophic level. And then the harvest mouse eats the grasshopper, so it's now on the third trophic level. But if the harvest mouse eats the pickleweed directly, then it is on the second trophic level. So depending on which chain you follow, it could be either on the second trophic level or the third trophic level. Okay. So let's, there we go. Ecological pyramids. All right, that was actually something from a handout that you guys will get here in a little bit. So, show the relationship. The ecological pyramid is where we actually go and we show our feeding relationships in a hierarchy. So it's in a pyramid form with levels. Each pyramid level is a trophic level within the food chain or the food web. And again, we have an example one that you guys will write in your printed part of your notes, simply because it's easier to draw them that way. So what we learn about, though, with an ecological pyramid, specifically an energy pyramid, is that 10% of the energy is transferred to the next level. That's it. So if all of the energy that is taken in by, let's say, that grasshopper that we just looked at, he only is going to transfer 10% of it onto the next level. The producers only transfer 10% of the sun's energy that they capture to the next level. The rest of it is lost as heat. Okay. So let's take a look here at your energy pyramid that you're going to sketch. So we're going to make it with 4 levels. The bottom level has lettuce, and then we have rabbit, and then we have a fox, and then we have a bobcat. Now, we know that the lettuce only gets used or sends up 10%, but the producer level represents 100% of the available energy to the entire ecosystem. So we consider the producers at 100%. It transfers up 10% to the rabbit. The rabbit then transfers up 10% of the 10%, so overall that is 1% of the original energy gets transferred to the fox, and then 0.1% of the original energy gets transferred up to the bobcat. So as you can see, things decrease very quickly here, and this is one of the reasons why most food chains aren't very long. Is because the energy decreases so quickly that by the time you get down towards the end, there's just not a lot of energy left. Now, you guys have some handouts that you are to do. There are some, there's one on food chains. There's one on, so there's some energy flow in food chains. There is the trophic levels. There's also one on energy pyramids. Okay, so you need to complete those, and you also have an Ed puzzle to do, as well as a section review that you're going to be doing on Schoology to turn in.